right, so I have my 15 by 18 square, 15 by 18 rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and decide where my horizon line is going to go. So I'm going to take my yardstick and create this horizon line. I'm going to be using 2-point perspective for my project. And I have decided to use the space prompt. So I really want a whole lot to be floating across mine. Let me just make sure that my horizon line is nice and even, which it's not. So I'm going to restart and bring it across again. Here we go. And then the one that I don't want to use, I'm going to go ahead and erase. Go ahead and do it all over again because I was not happy with that one. Now I'm going to make mine at a little bit of an angle. So I've got my horizon line, it's coming across this direction. Now with 2-point perspective, I'm going to be using 2 points, so 2 vanishing points. I'm going to go ahead and place 1 vanishing point and my second vanishing point right there. So 1 and 2. Now the next one that I want to be doing, I'm going to decide where my first building is going to go. Now my buildings, I want them to be above my horizon line because I want them to look like they're floating off into space. So I'm going to start with a really large structure above my horizon line. And then this one's going to come down just a little bit further. So it almost takes up the entire page. Now, when I'm creating my 2-point perspective, remember every angle, every corner has to come down to those vanishing points. So I'm taking my pencil, I have my vanishing point right here, taking my ruler right next to it. Oh no, my camera leg is right in the way. There we go. I'm going to bring it all the way down to my vanishing point, and it meets up with that line. I'm going to go ahead and do it to the bottom of it as well because I know that my structure is going to be coming down this direction. And my second side, so I have to meet up with the corners on the second side. And I'm going to bring this down as well. So I have the start of my first building. Now I want to see a whole lot of this side of it, so I'm going to cap it off really far in the distance in this direction, and I'll end up erasing these lines and these lines on the side. Now this one, I do want to bring it. I'm going to cap it off in this direction because I will be erasing this line, and this line. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll have my very first structure. Now with some of these structures, I am going to be curving the lines, and I wanted to show you guys how you can curve the lines to make it so it's not just a linear building, but it actually has curves and creases to the architecture. Now doing a space or a futuristic perspective drawing, it actually will make sense to make them all really linear, and that's fine if you decide to do that with yours. However, you don't have to. It's not a requirement to only make it this one element. All right, so with this one, I want to go ahead and add in another structure. I'm not quite going to go ahead and create my shadows and highlights yet, but I will do that later on. I do want another box on top of this building. I want to start creating things coming out of this building. So my next one is going to be coming out of the very top of it. Now I do want mine to look kind of futuristic because it is in space, and I think that will just kind of add an element of wonder to it, like what is happening with this. So I'm going to add a larger structure on top right here. Same thing, I'm just going to be building these over. Now I do need to decide with my artistic expression and freedom where I want these buildings to go and how I want them to be connecting to one another with the architecture of it. Now since it's in space, it doesn't necessarily have to make a whole lot of sense gravity-wise. So I can have like a large building floating above a smaller building, which is one of the fun things about doing a space prompt. And I can decide from there. Now these, I want them to be like poles on top of it. So I'm going to cap these off a little bit closer. And then I am going to go ahead and add in the bottom area to it. Remember when we put these lines on the side, you want to make sure that they come all the way over and you are continuing with the bottom of your box all the way across to your 2-point perspective vantage point. And I'm going to erase all of the lines that I'm not going to be using. I know this process, it takes a lot of erasing to get the lines that you want, but it's so important to make sure that these all line up with the perspective that you're using. Remember, one line, if it's off, it's not going to look like it's the correct perspective. And then it just won't make sense to your brain. And it'll throw the entire project off. So I'm still erasing these lines, trying to get them out of there so I can really see where my boxes are going to be. And then I can start to curve this line, this form a little bit further. And I can actually add it in so it's being built on top of my original box. Okay, I'm going to darken some of these lines so I know exactly where they are. Now when you go to darken yours, if you'd like to use your ruler with it so you know that you're not going to be going outside the line, you can. All right, so right now it just looks like I have a box floating on top of a large structure behind it. See that? Now with this, I want to make it look like it's actually being like placed on top of this building. So to do that, I'm going to add an element to make it look like it's actually been built into it. Okay, so I changed the angle of the camera because I realized you were watching it upside down this entire time, which probably isn't conducive to knowing what's happening. So sorry about that. I'm going to just continue on as I am. So I want to make it look like this structure is actually receding into this column right here. So I've created another line and I'm going to stop it right here in the center like that. So I only went to about right there. I'm going to do this again. So I want this one to come in. I want it to look like it's receding into the line once more. Let's see, yep, that's about where they are. And then I want this one to be the same angle as the previous. And then this structure is going to be going into my other vanishing point. Same with this right here. But however, I want this one to cut off and be lined up back here. So this is going to not quite go all the way down. So I stop these right here at this part because that's where these are touching. So I actually have a form now reaching out further than my box below. I have this one and this one. This one's going to be on top, so I'm going to erase the lines that were behind it so it can truly look like it's right there on top of it. And I also want another form behind it, so I'm going to bring another one just like this right here over to the side. So it's going to start looking like I have like columns reaching up to it. Everything, remember, goes back into the back, but I'm not going to take it all the way back this time because I know with my ruler what that angle is. So once you start to get to know where your angles are, you don't have to bring them as far back as you did in the beginning. As long as you know where they're stopping and starting. See, I have it on my dot down here, dot up here, and I'm only going to bring it as far as I want my column to be wide. Same with this one. I'm only going to bring it down as far as I want my column to be wide. So I do need to do it with the bottom of it as well. It's going to be a very tiny, tiny line where the bottom is because it's going to be a very tiny space that will be shaded. Same on this side, going from my second vanishing point down below. All right, I'm bringing it across. Oop, D is here. All right, so now I want to make it look like it's coming down and it's being lifted by this shape down below. So I'm actually changing my direction of my first corner. So originally I was having my corners all start upwards this way. Now I'm going to change the direction so it's going to look like it's actually angled outwards, and it's going to be creating a space underneath this area right here because I want it to look like it's actually like holding this building up. So to do that, I'm going to take the bottom area and I'm still going to create it all to that 2-point perspective box. This one the same way, but I'm going to do just a small bit of it, and then it's going to come on down and they're going to meet up with one another. Now I still want to make it look three-dimensional, so I'm going to start at this top corner all the way to my 2-point perspective, and I'm going to bring just a small area down. Same way with the bottom of it, start from the very bottom point over to the side and bring it up. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and cap off these areas on the side using the same direction as I did before. My yardstick, it's so long. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So now it looks like I have this kind of strange shape, like holding up my board. And then I'm going to be able to shade that later on. Well, here, I need to put these on here too. I'll need to shade these later on so it looks like it's actually down below. Now the shading is going to make a huge difference with all of this. Now this one also will be shaded down below. Now, if I want it to look like this piece that's kind of jutting out of the building right here is curved, like it's a column versus an angular shape, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to curve it around the way that it would if it were angled. So it's going to curve upwards because my areas are curved concave. I'm going to make these lines darker so you guys can see them really, really well. See how I have it curved upwards like that? And then down below, I want to make it look like it's a column, so I'm going to curve it downwards. Now to really make it look like it's a column, we're going to have to use our shading to do so. So I erase that center line, and I'm going to make it darker just under here on the edges and over here on the side, because when we have a cylindrical shape, it's going to be darker on the sides and then gradually get really, really bright right there in the center where the light hits it faster and more powerfully. So it's going to start taking shape like this. And now I have a curved area. Now I could also do that with any of these boxes. But what you want to do first is to start with your angled shape, your angled form, and then curve these boxes around to match the curve of your angle. So any of these boxes could be curved like this. Any of these boxes could be curved down below in the same direction. And then it matters with your shading and your technique to make it look like it is a part of a sphere. All right, if you have questions, please let me know.